Congratulations! You've just hit puberty as a male elephant seal, which means you've begun your transformation from an adorable, streamlined marine mammal into a grotesque blob of blubber with a nose that looks like it was designed by a committee of drunk aliens. Welcome to the next decade of your life, which will be spent in a perpetual cycle of starvation, violence, rejection, and if you're exceptionally lucky, about 3 weeks of sex followed by more violence. Let's start with your body, shall we? While female elephant seals maintain a relatively normal pinniped appearance, you're about to embark on the marine mammal equivalent of the world's worst steroid addiction. By the time you're 8 years old, you'll weigh up to 8,800 pounds. That's over 4 tons of blubbery flesh. You'll be 16 feet long, and your body will consist of roughly 30% floppy, quivering neck. Yes, neck. Your neck is so ridiculously bloated that it's actually impossible to distinguish where your head ends and your body begins. You're essentially a sentient water balloon with flippers. And that nose? That magnificent pendulous proboscis that gives your species its name? It's basically a fleshy loudspeaker designed for one purpose, telling other males how badly you want to beat them to death. Your nose isn't just for show. It's a resonating chamber that amplifies your roar to 130 decibels, roughly the volume of a jet engine. Imagine having a bullhorn permanently attached to your face that constantly broadcasts "Fight me, bro" to every other male within a mile radius. That's your life now. Your bulk isn't just for show, though. It's the price of admission to the most brutal combat tournament in the marine world. See, elephant seal society operates on what scientists politely call extreme polygyny, and what everyone else calls winner-takes-all sexual tyranny. Only about 2 to 5% of males will ever successfully mate. Let that sink in. If you were in a high school graduating class of 100 male elephant seals, only 5 of you would ever experience reproduction. The rest? Sorry, your genetic lineage ends with you, but thanks for playing. To become one of those lucky few, you need to become a beach master, the dominant male who controls a harem of up to 100 females. And how do you achieve this prestigious position? By engaging in the pinniped equivalent of medieval combat with every other male who has the same idea. These aren't playful tussles. These are brutal, bloody battles where you and another male, each weighing as much as a mid-size SUV, rear up and slam your bodies together, while simultaneously trying to tear chunks out of each other's necks with your teeth. Picture 2 living wrecking balls covered in scar tissue and testosterone, repeatedly crashing into each other for hours until one either retreats or dies. That's your dating app. That's how you swipe right. These battles are so violent that they frequently result in broken bones, ruptured internal organs, and massive blood loss. An estimated 20% of male elephant seals die from fighting injuries. Your mating strategy has a higher fatality rate than most extreme sports. But let's say you win. Let's imagine you've somehow defeated every challenger and established yourself as beachmaster. Congratulations. Your reward is 3 weeks of non-stop mating, during which you will not eat, barely sleep, and spend every waking moment either copulating or fighting off an endless stream of rivals trying to usurp your position. It's like being named CEO of a company, and then having to physically fend off every single employee who wants your job, while simultaneously attending back-to-back meetings with no breaks. During breeding season, you won't eat for up to 3 months. Not because food isn't available, but because leaving your spot on the beach for even a moment means losing everything you fought for. You'll lose up to 1/3 of your body weight during this period. Imagine going on a crash diet where you lose 1,200 pounds in a matter of weeks. Your entire life oscillates between extreme obesity and near starvation. You're either too fat to move comfortably on land or too hungry to think about anything but food. And speaking of food, your diet consists primarily of deep-sea creatures like squid and fish that live thousands of feet below the surface. This means you'll spend 90% of your life in the open ocean, diving to depths that would crush a human submarine. We're talking dives over 5,000 feet deep that last up to 2 hours. Your idea of grocery shopping is to hold your breath for 120 minutes while descending into the dark, freezing abyss where the pressure is enough to implode most mechanical devices. And you do this multiple times a day, every day, for months at a time. Your social life? Non-existent. Unlike females who form loose social bonds, you live a solitary existence. Your interactions with other males consist entirely of violence or intimidation, and your interactions with females last just long enough to mate. You're the marine mammal equivalent of that guy who lives alone in a cabin in the woods, except instead of crafting furniture, you're diving to crushing depths and storing the calories as blubber for your next 3-month hunger strike. Let's talk about your odds of success, shall we? The brutal truth is that most male elephant seals never become beach masters. The majority of you will spend your reproductive years as peripheral males, hanging around the edges of harems, desperately hoping for a chance to sneak in and mate with a female while the beach master is distracted. This strategy, which biologists have literally named sneaky mating, is about as dignified as it sounds and has roughly the same success rate as trying to steal food from a lion's mouth. Some males attempt a strategy called raiding, which involves rushing into a harem, grabbing a female, and attempting to mate before the beachmaster can stop you. Imagine the most awkward, violent, and unsuccessful speed dating event ever conceived, where the penalty for failure is getting your face ripped off. That's raiding. It rarely works and often ends with severe injuries, but when the alternative is genetic extinction, desperate measures become standard operating procedure. Your lifespan reflects the brutality of your existence. Female elephant seals commonly live to 20 years or more. You? You'll be lucky to see 14, and that's assuming you survive the gladiatorial combat of your breeding years. Most males die before age 10, their bodies broken by combat or exhausted by the extreme physiological demands of their lifestyle. You live hard, die young, and leave a very large, very blubbery corpse. Remember that magnificent nose I mentioned? It doesn't fully develop until you're about 7 years old, which means you spend your early adulthood looking like a second-rate elephant seal with a second-rate nose. You're like a teenager with a patchy beard trying to compete in a full beard competition. Older males won't even bother fighting you. They'll just roar at you through their fully developed proboscises, and the sheer volume and bass of their roars will send you slinking away in humiliation. When you're not fighting or mating, you're hauled out on beaches molting, the elephant seal version of a skincare routine that involves shedding your entire outer layer of skin and fur in ragged, disgusting patches. You look like you have the world's worst case of mange for weeks at a time. This molting period is yet another time when you can't feed, so you're essentially starving while your skin falls off in chunks. It's like having extreme eczema while doing an intermittent fasting challenge. The beaches you call home during breeding and molting are crowded, smelly, and covered in feces. Personal space doesn't exist. You're constantly being jostled, climbed over, or challenged. Sleep comes in brief snatches when you're not actively defending your position. It's like trying to nap on the floor of a mosh pit. Even when you do sleep, one part of your brain stays alert for challengers, meaning you never fully rest. You're perpetually exhausted, perpetually hungry, and perpetually ready for violence. Your massive size, which is your only ticket to reproductive success, is also your greatest vulnerability on land. You're so enormously fat and poorly designed for terrestrial movement that you can barely maneuver on beaches. Your locomotion consists of awkward, undulating lurches that look like someone filled a garbage bag with Jell-O and then tried to make it climb stairs. You're a perfect example of evolutionary specialization gone mad, supremely adapted for deep-sea diving and male-on-male combat, but comically inept at virtually everything else. Like what you're seeing. Want more brutally honest animal facts that'll make your human problems seem like luxury complaints? Hit that subscribe button now, because, unlike a male elephant seal, you have the thumbs to click it and the reasonable expectation of reproducing, without having to fight to the death first. So the next time you're feeling down about your dating prospects or stressed about your weight, remember the male elephant seal. Genetically programmed to become grotesquely obese, forced to starve for months at a time, required to fight potentially to the death for a brief chance at reproduction, and burdened with a biological design that's simultaneously specialized for extreme environments and ridiculously impractical. Your worst day is his fantasy life. Welcome to existence, male elephant seal. Your body is a temple, specifically a temple dedicated to the gods of poor engineering choices, extreme sexual competition, and physiological compromises that make no sense until you realize that evolution doesn't care about your comfort, only your reproductive success. And even then, it's stacked the odds so heavily against you that 95% of your kind will leave this world having contributed nothing to the next generation except a very large, very dead reminder of nature's brutal indifference.